Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
I'm Hannah Elliott.
And I'm Matt Miller. This is Hot Pursuit. So today we have a number of topics from F1 and MotoGP to new car releases from BMW and hopefully Corvettes. And then you're driving an electric car. I think the timing to talk about that, you're driving the Mercedes.
Sure. The EQS 400 SUV.
I think the timing of that is perfect. And any electric car news right now, like this morning we got a story that Uber wants to invest, I think, $1.25 billion in Rivian to buy 10,000 R2s for autonomous taxis. But I've noticed all of my friends who have EVs have been doing victory laps the last couple weeks.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
Why?
because the price has gone up at the pump. Like the national average, by the time this podcast comes out, I'm going to say the national average will have eclipsed $4.
Yeah. Yep.
And
it's $8 at some point.
I was going to say, you laugh
FYI.
because in California, it's well over $5.50. I'm talking about regular gas, right? Most of the cars that we test or drive only accept premium fuel.
Yep.
But so I think there could be a resurgence in EV demand if this goes on much longer. And that's why I'm interested to hear about your Mercedes EQS experience.
Okay, so we should talk about it. And we should also say, on the way to talking about the EQS, that our wonderful colleague, Kyle Stock, wrote this piece. I don't know if you saw it, Matt. It's called Surging Gas Prices Reignite EV Interests. And he basically talks about how Michael Piccinello, our friend at Classic Car Club, is buying an electric vehicle, which is funny because Mike is such a petrol head type of guy.
That is, I haven't seen this, but my wife has an alert for all new Kyle Stock stories.
Oh, she does.
She's
wow.
He is her secret crush.
Oh, really?
Not so secret crush.
Wow, Kyle. Okay.
And also, since she's from Spain, she doesn't know the name Kyle, so she always calls him Kylie Stock.
That is really cute. Have they ever actually met?
They've never met, but she follows him on Instagram. She loves all of his content.
Well, Kyle is very wholesome. He's a very wholesome American looking guy. Very clean cut.
He's a man.
Very, very healthy. Lives in Colorado.
Appropriately lives in the mountains of Colorado.
Yeah. Has a lab and 2.5 kids and really a nice guy.
But he also has I think he has a Jag XKE.
You're right. I think at least at one point he did.
I feel like he's a pilot. I know his dad was a pilot.
Yeah. Yes. I guess if that's really your thing.
He's a rugged American man.
Yeah. Kylie. Anyway, so we should say listeners should read it because he did write about it. But back to your point, Matt, which is this bigger point. Yes, I guess this is it's so funny that I thought the administration was sort of walking back all the EV targets, which is ironic now that their gas prices are higher and now everyone's flocking to EVs. It's all over the place.
This is honestly the way it should be. I mean, if you're a free market capitalist, and that's what Americans were before this, before we became socialists versus protectionists, then you want the market to choose. And right now the market is saying, wow, an EV is a pretty good idea.
Sure.
Rather than using my taxpayer dollars to subsidize your Tesla purchase. But whatever, leaving the politics aside, I just think it's fascinating that I'm starting to get a ton of messages. When I do my TV show every day and I show the board of oil prices, people will write in and say, I only pay $20 a month for, energy to fuel my EV. And meanwhile, you're getting 13 miles a gallon in your Cadillac Escalade. So,
well,
fair.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Honestly, that is fair. And I should say that this EQS that I'm driving this week gets 80 miles per gallon equivalent in the city, which is kind of amazing, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I still don't get the conversions. I have no idea what kilowatt hours are.
Yeah,
but I know that, it's going to be much cheaper to fuel your vehicle. But how is the vehicle? Because I know it's luxurious inside. The Mercedes vehicles always are, but they are not memorable in terms of their appearance. And I don't know. How's the performance?
Well, I'll say this. I do, in general, think Mercedes makes good cars. Last year, my favorite car I drove of the year was a Mercedes.
I loved it too. That was what, the
yes,
SL63?
Yes, yes. This is not that car. First of all, it looks not good. It's just a blob. It's just a big SUV blob. The one I got is in Twilight Blue Metallic, which is an extra cost option for $750 more. It looks a little bit purple. And the thing, it has 355 horsepower, which is pretty low. That's
so weird. I thought EVs all had 1,000 horsepower.
No, this is on the other end of it. That's for sure. It is disappointing. The steering is all over the place. I started to feel a little car sick at one point, just with the wobbling and the wafting and the braking. And yes, that was when it was in economy mode, and I did switch it into comfort, and you can switch it into sport, and it gets less range, but a little bit better driving. It's not. Look, you don't buy this car for the drive. You buy it because it gets 80 mpg in the city.
But do you? Because you're paying, what, $100,000, I'm just guessing?
Well, you're a very good guess. Total retail price on this is $105,000. Suggested base price is about $90,000. So very, very good estimate, Matt. I will say, Mercedes makes still, I think, the best infotainment and has the best software and the best screens that you can get right now. And it's a very simple thing, but I love that when I get in the car, it instantly syncs with my phone, CarPlay, Bluetooth, seamless, never fail. And that is actually quite a rare thing. Usually,
no, I agree.
It's
amazing.
A lot.
It's amazingly elegant. It's intuitive. I think General Motors gives them a decent fight. I love General Motors infotainment systems, even the ones that don't have CarPlay, because they're so good. I don't think you need CarPlay anymore. But yeah, Mercedes is pretty near perfect when it comes to that kind of stuff.
It really is good, and I really like where they're going with their autonomous driving. They're partnering with NVIDIA. I've been in other vehicles that have very nearly complete autonomy when they drive on city streets. So all of that I think is really good. But no, this car drives terribly. It's not. You don't buy it for the drive.
I mean, but the thing is, if you're going to pay $105,000, I can think of so many cooler cars you can get. Admittedly, most of them won't have 80 miles per gallon equivalent, but
right. And let's say I just got this car yesterday, so
maybe you'll get into it.
Yeah, maybe I'll get into it, especially over the weekend. You know, obviously it's a big car. You're going to use it for kids and for sports gear and, you know, shopping, that sort of thing. And I do plan to use it in those capacities. So I think let's hope it's very practical. And, you know, it's got lots of nice comfort and convenience, like soft closed doors. It's got... You know, I don't know if people like that or not, but it's...
I'll say I've been thinking about that a lot lately.
The soft closed doors?
Yes, and the fact that, you know, before I got lucky enough to test drive all these cars from manufacturers, like a normal proletariat man, I used to go to the dealership and test drive a car for 20 minutes or something. You don't get really a taste or you don't get a good enough snapshot of the experience in that short amount of time. And I've noticed sometimes even for a few days, it's not enough. You need weeks because the Escalade that I was driving until today had those doors that kind of open and close by themselves, you know, and you have to do it right for them to work well. And so it was an annoyance for the first few days. But after I got used to it and realized how they work, and you really need to rebuild new muscle memory, then it became something that I don't know how I'm going to live without in the future. So
interesting.
Maybe this EQS 400 has some, you know, sort of Easter egg bonuses that you will kind of discover and get into. And that's, I think, the beauty of test driving a car. If I'm going to spend $100,000 for a vehicle, I would really rather spend a week with it than, even an hour-long test drive.
I do wish there was sort of a different or better way for people to test cars, like most of our friends and family and neighbors, because it is true. And I've got a colleague who just got into a new Volvo SUV with her family, and they were so looking forward to it. And they've already had some issues with the software system and with the key apparatus, which is a card, and which has sort of already been very frustrating. And I think they probably, it would have been good if they could have had the car at their home for like even an overnight to test it, rather than just doing exactly what you described, which is just go and like spend 20 minutes with it and then have to make a decision. That's your second largest purchase, potentially, after your house.
Totally agreed. All right. Well, I look forward to more experience in this. By the way, so BMW, I think yesterday, has shown for the first time its actual production model of the new i3, which is their electric version of the 3 Series. That's like a bench. Yes. That's the benchmark BMW, right? The 3 Series
their most popular model.
And this is not to be confused with that ugly little i3 of old.
I actually do confuse them. Because it's called an i3.
The name. Yeah, I know. Yeah. They stopped making that years ago. I loved that little thing, but it was nothing like a 3 Series, obviously. No. And I think it's just, I can't wait to spend a week in that. I haven't driven a BMW lately, but I've always been impressed with BMW. They get a little bit too kind of racer boy for me, too many.
But is that the drivers? Because I'm all about like, I don't want to blame the car for the people who gravitate toward it and drive it.
Yeah, no,
right?
I'm just talking about the styling, though.
Okay, all right.
It's too complicated, and they have clearly got a strategy where they want to bring out vehicles that you think are the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life the first time you see them, and then after a year, you've gotten so used to them that you want one.
That's normalizes.
Obviously their strategy, but this, the Neue Klasse.
Yeah.
I think. Even contrary to the one that they were showing, the pre-production model, it looks elegant and simple. And even if you don't love it, it doesn't make you hate it at first. Plus, it has like 450 miles of range. It adds, 250 miles in a 10-minute charge. It seems very promising to me. So I'm really looking forward to that while we're talking about electric cars.
It does seem very promising. There's something going on at BMW where they have not been super eager to get us in the cars. And that, to me, is curious.
Well, I think they're waiting for this new architecture this will be the first one on the new KKL architecture, or the Neue Klasse architecture.
But they have had press drives already. So I'm...
usually you get invited to those things. I never do.
I'm also curious. I do wonder how it'll be, and I do think, the new styling is great. I mean, I think the 3 Series started in 1975.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
And this is what I remember when I first moved to New York. Every junior level banker wanted they really wanted an M3. But they bought the 3 Series.
They get a 325. Maybe
car.
They move up to an M3 later, and they definitely want a 911. That's the pinnacle. But the 3 Series is like a pioneering car, because not only is it the benchmark for BMW, but when they first came out and they were selling so many in the U.S., BMW was the first car maker to say, wait, if we're selling so many in America and the volatile currency makes our earnings look weird, why don't we just make them in America? So they were the first car maker to say, like, let's make these things where we produce them. And now their Spartanburg plant is such a behemoth that they are, I believe, the biggest non-defense and aerospace exporter of products in America. Like, they export tens of billions of dollars worth of the whole X series is made down there. So
this was a really big conversation when tariffs were first being bandied about. BMW really was very adamant and vocal about saying, actually, we're like one of America's biggest corporate employers and producers, manufacturers,
and won't be hit by tariffs.
Right. Here's my question for you, Matt. You know how Porsche made basically its 2 best-selling models, the Cayenne and the Macan, like sort of hybridized and electrified those, and that was a bit of a mistake because of
yes,
because of changing conditions. Put it that way. Is BMW doing the same thing here? And by that I mean they're electrifying like their moneymaker. It's a risk.
Well, so there's two things. Number one, they're going to put out a new gas version of the 3 Series as well. Okay. So they will concurrently sell the new electric version on the KKL architecture and a new gas version on the old CLAR architecture.
So
you can choose.
Okay, so they're still keeping their hands in the internal combustion.
Yes. The weird thing to me is that the electric version is going to come out with pretty much like E340, M340 or base M3 power. So it also doesn't have huge horsepower and torque numbers. It's like high 400s for both of those.
Okay.
I thought it would have been more power, but of course they'll come out with a version later that has much more power.
Sure.
And I think also that at the time Porsche's mistakes have been amplified by how much money they're losing.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that they showed, for example, the new Cayenne at the height of like EV backlash.
I know.
It was the zeitgeist at the time to hate all EVs.
Yeah.
And we had just killed all of the tax subsidies and right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like the Iran war and the surging gas prices has turned around that backlash to some extent. Plus, there have been even more vehicles that prove EVs can drive really well since then.
Sure.
And most manufacturers have gone away from the only EV strategy. So like BMW, they're still selling a gas version alongside the electric version, or they're selling like an e-rev or a hybrid that people like and helps sort of ease them into an EV future. So I think all of that is really a moving target.
Cool. Yeah. Well, every automaker that I've spoken with in the past week, just around earnings and things, have basically just said, we just need the chaos to stop.
There's so much of it, though. I spoke with the CEO of Audi earlier this week. And
did he come on TV?
He came on TV.
Cool.
And they had, real problems in Audi. They had margins fall to 5% last year. And historically, Audi is a big, like double-digit margin maker. They're forecasting a rebound. It's going to be helped by, they have this new Halo car, the RS5, which looks amazing.
Yes.
But they still have these issues. Like, remember, Audi was supposed to have, what was it? The even numbers were going to be electric, and the odd numbers were going to be gas.
Is that what it was going to be?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But that hasn't held, obviously. They still are. German car makers are convinced that confusing buyers with the nomenclature is the best way forward. It's an
intelligence test.
Yeah.
Like, are you smart enough to own one of our cars? I mean, I do know Audi will have some new product this year.
Yeah.
We know that. And we know that, of course, they're in Formula One this year.
You know what? Let's put a pin in this right now. We'll go to break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll talk about your F1 story.
Cool.
This is Hot Pursuit on Bloomberg. We are back with Hot Pursuit on Bloomberg, and I'm Matt Miller. Hannah Elliott's out in LA. And Hannah, you wrote a story on F1, which is booming, seems to be booming with new manufacturers, new teams, even though watching F1 is more frustrating and
the drivers are
just lame than ever. But.
Well, yeah, but if you're really annoyed, you're feeling something, right? That can't be all bad.
I will tell you the other thing before you get into the manufacturers in your story. The other thing is that since it's on Apple TV, it's so accessible. And so it made me excited that I'm going to watch, I thought, every qualifying. I'm going to watch every sprint. I'm going to watch every race. And I'm really going to eat it up this year. But but the powertrain is so annoying that I can't. I already bought a second weekend quit.
Okay. You're saying that your enthusiasm and excitement is directly tied into a powertrain?
Yes.
Why?
Because how am I supposed to know how much battery they have left?
Why does it matter?
They can't go. It matters because they can't go as fast as they can on every part of the track. They slow down to recuperate battery power in random places. And then the other thing is, I'll be rooting for, someone who's behind to catch up. And all of a sudden, he has double the horsepower. Boom. Of course he can catch up and leave the other guy looking like he's standing still. Like, that's not racing. That's some other kind of thing.
It's strategy.
It's like, I don't appreciate it at all. But.
I think... Well, look, I'll play devil's advocate to you. I don't think you're wrong, but I will provide a counterpoint, which is that I don't think most of the American fans care necessarily about what's happening in the powertrain. I'm talking general fans. I'm not talking pundits. I'm not talking obsessed bloggers and that sort of thing, because I love you guys. Obviously, you're one of us. I'm talking about generalized fans who are following the storylines, who are in love with Lando Norris or George Russell, who happens to be winning right now, or who love Lewis and Kim getting together, maybe not. Like, I don't see them really caring about that. I know the driver. I know Max Verstappen especially has been really vocal about hating the new rules.
I mean, the thing is, I just don't see anyone moving from casual fan to obsessive in this setup because say you have, first of all, George Russell wins races. Like, what's that all about? But say you have George in front, right? And then Lewis is behind. And now on lap 1, Lewis soars forward and passes George, right?
It could happen.
On lap 2, George soars forward and passes Lewis. On lap 3, Lewis soars forward and passes George. And none of this is because of the skill of either driver, and none of it is because of the engineering of the team. It's all because all of a sudden one dude had battery power and the other one didn't. And they just pass it back and forth. Super boring. How can you get into racing like that?
Okay, how is that different than
DRS?
Monitoring tires.
Because tires is something that degrades over time, and when you've lost them, you've lost them, and if you keep them, you keep them. So it's a constant.
But then you switch out. I mean, but everyone has to monitor and regulate their tire use and when they're going to change.
So I'm used to
the same.
I'm used to MotoGP, where you can't switch tires and you can't pit in the middle of the race, and you drive as fast as you can the entire time, no matter what part of the track you're on.
So old school, just going all out all the time.
And the winner is the highest skilled driver or the guy on the best bike. Now, it could be also a woman after Kalos win podium in Daytona. But, that's like real racing talent or engineering edge. This is just like silly rules. I mean, I'd rather watch somebody play Parcheesi. It just doesn't. Anyway, let's talk about your story.
Whoa. Yeah, I think we really are. I mean, the basis of the story is that I make the case that this year is going to be an exciting year to watch Formula One. And I stand by that because we don't know what's going to happen. The fact that Mercedes is in the top 2 spots right now and Ferrari's in the next 2 spots is totally new and different. Both those teams were down far lower in the pack last season. We've got new cars. We've got
because their drivers weren't as good. The best drivers are now far lower.
Well, we don't know that. Shouldn't a great driver be able to win no matter what? Shouldn't a champion be able to win? Find a way to win.
Fair point.
Find a way to win. So I'm arguing this is actually going to be a very exciting season. We've already lost the Saudi Arabia and Bahrain Grand Prix, so that's a whole other thing. Just the fact that we don't know from the start that McLaren's going to be in the front. I mean, Red Bull's nowhere now, which is kind of wild. To me, this is all interesting. I find it interesting. It's not predictable.
Yeah, I guess, that's true. And Red Bull has a new powertrain. There are so many new entrants. So to me, the exciting thing is that Ford's involved. GM is involved. Audi is involved.
We've got to talk about it.
And that Cadillac adds to the Apple TV-ness of it. Like all of a sudden I care more because brands that I connect with as an American,
well, that's the other thing.
are in it. So
totally.
Yeah.
I want it to be interesting. I want there to be a massive reshuffle, and there has been. Cadillac is sort of down very low there. I think in the constructors, let me just make sure. Yeah, they're 10th out of 11. Aston Martin is last, which is sad. But Audi.
Do you remember when I interviewed Lawrence Stroll a few weeks ago, and he was like, "I don't know what's going on there." He owns the team.
I know. Ooh, did we ever play a clip of that on the podcast?
We can play it.
We should.
Now.
Maybe we should.
We don't really go in with expectations. We're going to try our best, do the best we can. I'm quite confident with the team we've put together and the partners I've just mentioned that we'll do a great job. This set of rules is here with us for 5 years, so it's not about the first race or two. It's about the next 5 years. Again, extremely confident we have the right people, we have the right tools, we have the right processes, we have the right partners. So I'm very confident extremely confident for our future.
We have seen reporting that Mercedes and Red Bull have found some kind of edge with variable engine compression. It's all very technical. Some have accused them of cheating like animals, I think was a quote I heard. Others have defended them. Christian Horner came to their defense. What do you think about people looking for an edge in the rules ahead of the season?
Listen, you're always looking for an edge in the rules, and you're always looking to find loopholes. That's part of Formula One. I'm not a technical power unit guru to really give an opinion on exactly what they've done, but I will leave it to those who are in the know. Obviously, there's a lot of talk going on between the various power unit teams and the FIA to check the legality of what they've done.
How about your confidence in Adrian Newey? Obviously, everyone's very excited to see what he can do with your team, and other teams have looked with a little bit of wonder and awe at the suspension, for example, that he's been able to create. What do you think are your biggest advantages with him?
You said it. It's having him. He is the GOAT. He is a unicorn. Nobody has a track record like he's had since his times in Formula One, winning 25 world championships. He is unique. There's one Adrian, and I am very blessed that he's my partner and with our team.
I just think, yes, it's great there are new teams. I'm here for it. And going back to Audi, our previous conversation, I think Audi could be really interesting to watch because not to say Cadillac won't be, but Cadillac is starting from pure scratch. Audi, of course, bought Sauber, so they
scored points in the first race.
Yeah, maybe have a leg up a little bit. I just think it's going to be kind of fascinating and cool.
The thing I loved in the first couple races was Lindblad has shown real promise, and he's on the Red Bull junior team. So and he's a kid.
Now,
right?
Why do you like him?
Just because he's a kid who just turned the board over on the first in the first race, and I thought, wow, this guy.
I don't know really anything about him.
Arvin, he was even ahead of his. More experienced teammate. So anyway, I'll stick with it. I am going to go to the race in. Oh, you're going to go too. You and me will be there at the Bloomberg house.
Anyone listening should
Miami.
really try to come and see us. If you're in Miami, we will be at the race. It'll be fun. Bloomberg's doing a whole thing.
That's the end of April. But I'll tell you what. Next week, I'm going to Austin on Thursday.
I heard about this. Someone told me.
Going to
MotoGP with you. I had a lunch.
I'm going with one of my closest friends to watch Ducati, and because Marc Marquez is my man. After he crushed it last season, they're having difficulties this season. Aprilia's bikes are the fastest on track. The KTM is doing really well. And they'll be racing in Austin, Texas. So MotoGP, if you really want to watch racing, without a whole bunch of silly rules and crazy hybrid powertrains that aren't, sufficient to make it all the way around the track at top speed, watch MotoGP.
Now, why is you said Marc Marquez is having issues this season?
Yeah, Ducati just isn't on top. Last year Ducati would finish. Sometimes they would have all of the top 6 spots. No other bike on the grid could keep up. And
Dominant.
this year, at the end of last year, Aprilia started making real headway, and now they are absolutely crushing it in terms of the power and performance of the bike. The KTM, even though they're like a bankrupt Austrian motorcycle maker, is doing really well. And, Ducati still, Marc still manages to podium when he's up there. And there was a little bit of a scandal in the first race where he made a pass that was, I think, a normal block pass, the pass that's the reason I watch racing. But they said you can't do that anymore. So we'll see if that's still allowed. But yeah, MotoGP is where it's at.
How many more years of racing do you think Marc Marquez has?
That's a good question. He's not 40, and Valle raced until he was 40. But I think Marc is definitely a better motorcycle pilot, better MotoGP racer than Rossi already.
Really? I'm looking at his face, and I see online he's 33.
Yeah.
His face
looks... He's a child, so...
Looks old.
I think Rossi was like either 40 or 41 when he retired. He wasn't, winning anything when he retired anymore, but...
But you can have a real career up
You can, except for the fact that Marc has broken like every bone in his body. He for a long time had the fastest crash at 209 or 212 miles per hour. His arm has been so destroyed that he actually had
fused.
He had it fused, but 30 degrees higher, so he could ride better.
That's great.
He's had injuries like concussions where he sees double for multiple days or even a whole week, and his doctors have said at any point he could have one accident could mean he never sees straight for the rest of his life.
Oh no,
But
that's how I know motorcycle riders are different than me.
He's dedicated and cares.
So their brain, they've got a few screws that are different.
All right, let's take another quick break and come back to talk about. I've heard reports of new motors, bigger motors coming out of General Motors, and now we're starting to hear rumors of these new motors going into a Corvette Grand Sport, which could be a game changer. And I want to discuss.
More. We must dive in. This is Hot Pursuit on Bloomberg. And we're back.
We are back.
You need to tell me about this Cadillac rumor, this Corvette rumor.
Yeah,
that you've been hearing. I'm not aware of it.
So there already were reports. I think Road and Track at the end of last year wrote a story that General Motors was coming out with two new small blocks, or a new small block that could come in a 5.7 liter and a 6.6 liter at the time. And of course, we know that right now the GM V8s are a 5.3 liter and a 6.2 liter, right?
Yes,
and have been forever.
We know that. Yes.
Now I saw, and we're waiting for Corvette to come out with a Grand Sport. They always have, like Porsche with the 911s, when the GTS is coming out, when the Turbo S is coming out, when the GT3 is coming out. And Corvette already has put out its Z06. They've already put out the ZL1. They had the ZL1X. And so the Grand Sport's supposed to come next, which is normally the Z06 like body and suspension with the regular powertrain from the Stingray, which would be the 6.2 liter. But now Motor Trend is saying there was a dealer meeting and dealers are leaking the fact that the new Grand Sport is going to come out with a new motor, a 6.7 liter V8, which obviously makes me happy.
Sure.
And it's going to have the 6.7 liter V8, so a little bit bigger than Road and Track said, I think, and we'll have the Z06, paraphernalia and wide body kit. The even cooler thing is Corvette has the E-Ray, which I'm a huge fan of it.
Yes.
So it's the Stingray motor, the 6.2 liter V8 with an electric motor on the front axle, making a four-wheel drive Corvette, which I just think is so cool.
That's cool.
Yes. And what Motor Trend is saying, or what I guess some people from the dealership meeting leaked, is that not only are they going to have a Grand Sport now, but they're going to have a Grand Sport X, which will replace the E-Ray. It'll essentially be, the same thing, the 6.7 liter V8 in the back and an electric motor on
As
the
a
front
hybrid.
axle. Yes, exactly. A hybrid Grand Sport, basically.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
Whoa,
cool.
what a monster.
I'm really excited. Also, one of the
Yeah.
coolest things about the E-Ray, which I think goes underappreciated, is that it comes standard with carbon ceramic disc brakes.
Now, why does that excite you?
Because typically that's like a $10,000 option, right?
Yeah.
And you get it essentially with the package on the E-Ray. I hope it comes through with the Grand Sport X as well, because I kind of feel like that would be the one to buy. Now, having said that, I still haven't driven, I've never driven the Z06. That's the one with the flat plane crank and the 5.5 liter V8 that makes like 650 horsepower. Everybody who has says that's the one to get, but it's also more expensive.
We need to get into these cars.
It revs high. Yeah, I would love to drive. I actually have driven in the Z06. Mark Royce took me on a lap of their test track.
Yes.
Once, but I didn't get to drive the car myself. And I was like, "Hey, Mark, can I buy this car?" And he's like, "No, there's rules against that." So
okay.
But I think for me, I thought, the E-Ray is the one to get. Living in the Northeast, I would love to have the 4-wheel drive. You get insane acceleration because of the all-wheel drive. And
that's like over 700 horsepower.
Yes. And this, so the new Grand Sport with just the 6.7 liter V8 is rumored to make around 550 horsepower, which is 50 and change more than the current Stingray. And the new Grand Sport X is rumored to make also well over 700 horsepower, maybe approaching 8.
Now, I like what you said about the brakes, because I do think like the best thing about the Corvette is the value. It's so much car for the money. You get so much. And to be able to have those brakes as standard just sweetens the deal even more. It's like all that power, everything we've just discussed do we know what a price point is going to be?
No, we don't.
Have we heard anything even remotely?
No, but
close?
So right now the E-Ray goes for like 100. The Z06,
which I think is fair.
Yeah,
really fair
for sure. That's you can get an E-Ray for the same price as your EQS 400.
Yeah, well, I know which one I'd take.
And then the Z06, I think it goes for like 130. Now you'll see them higher because there's a wait list and people want them right away. But I feel like a Grand Sport would probably go for around a little bit less than the E-Ray price. So say 95. And Grand Sport X would go for more than the E-Ray. So say like 110, right? I'm probably off in either direction on both of those. But suffice it to say, you're right. It's the value proposition, right?
Yeah.
This is a car with blistering performance. It's a car that you might choose instead of a 911 and pay half the price for it, right?
You definitely choose it instead of a Mustang. And that's just
for sure. No, for sure. 100%. It's another level. It's incomparable.
Level.
But the thing is, like, I always cross shop in my mind this car with a 911. And while a 911 you could argue is like jack of all trades, does everything well, amazing build quality, it does cost twice as much and is like pretty ubiquitous in terms of you see them everywhere all the time, right? So for less money, you're getting more performance and kind of a little bit more rarity. I don't see that many C8 Corvettes.
And to be honest, I remember thinking I would cross shop it against a McLaren, and I might even, there are some similarities to a Ferrari on it. And I know that might sound wild, but first of all, the thing when it first came out, the first mid-engine Corvette was compared to Ferrari.
For sure.
In looks and driving characteristics.
Even the C7 kind of looked like a Ferrari.
Yes.
And I totally agree. And
I don't think it's crazy to say that.
No, and you have potentially better build quality with the Corvette as well because the Ferrari's Italian. And also less complexity because Ferraris now, it's no coincidence that the CEO of Ferrari used to run ST Microelectronics. Like they're rolling computers. Yeah, so I think I would definitely rather have it than a McLaren because a McLaren is
Me
way
too.
more expensive and they depreciate the same as a Corvette, right? You can find
the interiors are superior as well. For me, that's a big deal.
But and I think, look, if you're going to give me one, maybe I would take a Ferrari free versus a Corvette free. But the real world comparison, I think, still is always going to be a 911. And for 100, like if you want the Z06, right, you're revving up to 8,000 RPM. You have the scream of the Ferrari because you have a flat plane crank, and you're paying 130,000 to get that kind of exotic feel out of a Porsche. You have to go to like a GT3, and for that, you're paying $250. You're waiting a year, and you're flipping it after putting 300 miles on it, right? Because that's what GT3 drivers do.
Yeah, but
they don't drive them and put them on Bring a Trailer right away.
I am not convinced the people who are looking at and thinking about Corvettes are the same guys looking at and thinking about 911s.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I don't see a lot of crossover. Although I do remember sometime earlier this year, I met a gentleman out in the world somewhere who told me he was a lifelong Corvette owner and he had just bought his first Porsche and was loving it, and it was a really new, interesting, different thing for him. So I know the crossover does happen, but
was he a retiree wearing jean shorts and white socks?
You saw that photo. Yeah, Corvette season just around the corner.
That's the one thing that holds me back, to be honest with you, from buying a Corvette. That's the reason that's the reason I want a 997 instead of a C8, and we're talking about like similar prices because I don't want people to think I wear cutoff jorts. Is that an admission of total weakness in my character?
No. It's just honesty. I get it.
I feel like such a loser now.
It's easier for a woman. You can be more fluid with these things for sure.
By the way, what's up with your car shopping experience lately? I saw you sent me a Camargue the other day.
Yeah.
And I almost want to get one of those myself. Like the only reason I won't buy one of those is because I don't want to get in front of you on the Camargue driver list.
No, get it. Please get it. Help me. Help me help you. So last I saw, Magnus sent me this link to a Camargue at Beverly Hills Car Club,
which is not, by the way, an exclusive driving club, as I thought for like 20 years. It's not a car club, and it's not in Beverly Hills. So take everything with a grain of salt. It's in fact, I expect that we may have Alex Manos, the owner of Beverly Hills Car Club, on the show. So it'll be great to talk to him about it. Basically, it's a car dealership
shop. Yeah, dealership. That's the word. With hundreds of cars, and it's a little like caveat emptor. I wouldn't say this is a place for total newbies to buy their first ever vintage car. This is a place where kind of what you see is what you get. And anyway,
is.
Yes, Magnus,
all car sales there are as is.
It's very, very as is.
But so they have a ton of the best cars. Like, yes, I'm not saying they're in the best shape, but they have many Porsches.
We bought cars from them. So we bought cars from them. Magnus sent this link for a 1978 Rolls-Royce Camargue, listed at $37,500, which is a very, very good price for a Camargue. But as I dug into the description, it's a little too ropey even for us. It's going to need it, even in the description it says that it's going to require cosmetic and mechanical attention before regular road use, which is as much of a disclaimer as you'll ever get. So that means it's really may not even go around the block. And all that to say, am I looking at it? Yes. Am I going to go look at it? Maybe. It costs nothing to go kick a tire, right?
No, true. And
Dark
also,
walnut brown.
I mean, a lot of times you're going to get a good deal on a car that's in that kind of shape, because if you're somebody who, say, your uncle passed away and now you have his Camargue, which sat in the garage for the last 25 years.
I'm actually writing about that this week.
Yeah. So do you want to make all of the upgrades? Do you want to make all the repairs and then try and sell it, or do you just want to get rid of it quick?
Just offload it.
And then you know a lot about these cars. You know a lot of people in the community.
I
know Charlie.
Yeah.
And so you say, hey, Charlie, how much is it going to cost to get this thing in running order?
Yeah.
And he says, I think I can do it for $15,000. And so you see it for $37,000, and now you have a $52,000 Camargue. Yeah.
And that's right in the market, somewhere around 50 to 70. Like the best one in the world will cost 70, and a running driving one might be around 50.
But a lot of times you're better off. Like,
yes.
If I find like a 997.1 that's, looks great, but I know it has bore scoring, maybe I'm better off getting it for cheap, taking it to DeMamp or whatever it's called, and having them, bore out the motor, put in the Nicosil sleeves, and now I have not only gotten a deal, or maybe I get it for market price, but I have the peace of mind that I know now this motor is bulletproof.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's as long as you know what you're dealing with. Like, as long as I always hear people say when they're buying a car, what does this car need? Because assuming that a car doesn't need anything, I think might be folly. I think the question is, tell me honestly now, and take it with a grain of salt, but what does the car need now? And then at least you know what you're dealing with, because no car is going to need nothing, really.
All right. Well, I hope we have, what's his name? Alex Manos?
Yeah.
I hope we get him on, because I've been looking at his products for years. And I always thought it was like the West Coast version of the Classic Car Club. But now that I know what it is, I actually feel like I'm in a better position.
It's something different and wonderful. It really is. It's a great thing. I used that car club too, as when I was thinking of when I really kind of wanted a Corvette, but I hadn't really been around them a lot. I would go there just to look at them, just to sit in them, just to try to be exposed to them and learn about them a little bit. And that is really, really valuable, because otherwise, how are you going to explore a new model without some exposure somehow? And I didn't know anyone who owned one. So it is really useful just to go over and spend time.
All right. Too. Well, that's all we got for this week. I am not actually. I know I'm going to drive the Cadillac. Now I'm going to drive the Cadillac. What is it? The Lyric V.
Oh, okay. Next week. So it's back to back Escalade Lyric.
Starting today. Yes.
Okay.
And Cadillac even gave me a hat. I'm allowed to accept gifts under $50 in value. So I'm pretty excited about that, because I've driven the sort of underpowered version. I've driven the EQS 400 version of this car in the past. But now I'm going to drive the V version. I've never driven an electric V car. So I'm looking forward to driving that.
Can't wait to hear it. And then when are you going to Texas? Thursday?
And then, Thursday I'm flying down to Texas.
Cool.
I'm going to go to a Ducati event. I'm going to spend basically 5 days trying to hang out with Marc Marquez.
I hope that goes well. I can't wait to see the photo.
And then, as always, when I go to a race in person, what I'm going to do is I'm going to enjoy the atmosphere. I'm going to try and get into the paddock. I'm going to probably buy like a T-shirt or whatever. And when the race actually starts, I'm going to find a quiet room where I can sit down in front of a television and watch it.
Yeah.
Because it's always better to watch on TV than it is at the track.
Every media reporter who covers Formula One watches the race from TV inside the media room.
So does everybody in the garage. Like the mechanics, the team owner, they all do it like that. So
I know.
What about you? What do you have any? You have more time with the EQS 400.
Yeah.
You have any new cars coming? Any trips?
Well, this weekend we're going to go look at a car, and I can't tell you what it is. I'll tell you offline. It's not the Camargue. It's something that will be surprising. But we're going Saturday at 7:30 in the morning to go look at this thing that fell into our laps.
Nice.
His lap. I'll keep you posted. I really can't say anything, but it's a surprise. Let's see, trips? No. I might try to take 3 days off and drive to Carmel.
Nice.
In a week or two. That's my goal. Yeah, just try to get away. Stay in a tiny little Airbnb on Ocean Drive in Carmel. Go to the beach. Take the dog. This is what I'm seeing.
You know what the best thing is when you have time off and a car that you want to drive and no plans.
Yes,
a couple
of
years back, I had my Raptor, I had my dog, a new shotgun, and 2 weeks. So I drove down to North Carolina to Asheville, and then I drove over to Tennessee, Tail of the Dragon. I just would camp out. I had a tent. I would just camp out wherever I sort of landed for the night and find I'd go skeet shooting and driving roads. And it was an amazing 2 weeks.
That's really, really cool. I think that, were you alone?
Yeah, just me and Steve.
Honestly, more people need to do that. More people need to have a moment of solitude, I think. I mean, with Carmel, Magnus will come too. But in general, I love that you did that. Yeah. That is great.
I got to drive on all those, the whatever it's called, the Blue Sky Parkway, Tail of the Dragon.
I've never been. I've heard they're really gorgeous.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just
that's
amazing.
Really cool.
Yeah.
That does it for this week's show. Remember to follow and subscribe to Hot Pursuit on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen. You can also send us your comments. Email us at hotpursuit@bloomberg.net.
Definitely shoot us an email at hotpursuit@bloomberg.net. Check out also Hannah's columns and stories on Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Business app. You'll see her F1 story, for example. You can go to that business app for car reviews or Bloomberg.com for car reviews, events, and stories that you won't find anywhere else. Find it at Bloomberg.com/pursuits/autos. I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Hannah Elliott, and I think we should also promote your TV show, Matt, where you do have some great guests on, including
That's true.
Stroll.
Watch me every day from 9 a.m. to 11 on Bloomberg Open Interest.
We'll be in your podcast feed again next week.